Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast, episode 48. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee, and today we are talking about the Warhammer Part C. My co-hosts today are...
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Chandler.
And we're going to pick up right where we left off with the Warhammer in the model list, and we are going to start off with the Warhammer 8M, first seen in 3069. This guy's got a movement profile of 4-6. It's got a ER medium laser in the right torso, as well as a light Gauss rifle, and in the left torso it's got a medium laser, and then in each arm it's got an ER PPC. It's got 12 double heat sinks. It's interesting to look at a Warhammer without anything over its shoulders. It just doesn't quite look like a Warhammer.
Yeah, more like a thug.
I had not put that comparison in my head, but...
It's almost like they're related.
Yeah.
This is still using the one TRO Phoenix art I really dislike. We talked about last time with the really gangly, the cannons are down by the knees, just really stretched out and Gumby-like.
Yeah, the hyper-extended arms almost.
It's got a lot of dangly bits, is what you're saying.
And, of course, the Warhammer continues to weigh in at 70 tons. And this particular model has a battle value of 1631 and a point value of 38.
What do you think of that long-range loadout?
I think it's quite nice. I mean, the heat buildup is a bit high for my liking, especially considering it's got the two ER PPCs, but it's not terrible. I mean, you cycle out the PPCs and use the light Gauss and the ER medium lasers if they get in range or someone charges you. It's not terrible. Like, this guy clearly wants to stick at distance, but runs a little hot for my taste.
It's goofy and I like it.
I think that light Gauss rifle really helps it because that gives it two weapons it can hit with at long range and to manage the heat when you have to cycle down that second ER PPC. No HE weaponry, which I'm kind of sad about because, again, when you're fighting enemy infantry, you really want to bring along some sort of HE, and the traditional SRM is really flexible.
Yeah, but I mean, we've mentioned before, the Warhammer is almost exclusively a anti-mech or anti-heavy vehicle mech. Like, its purpose is to kill big things. It can kill infantry, you just gotta pull the trigger a lot.
Yeah, hopefully get them out in the open.
Yes.
So next up we have the 10T, seen in 3073, and this guy has a ER medium laser in each torso. It's got a regular PPC in each arm. It has a movement profile of 587. It also has 11 double heat sinks, endo steel, and an XL engine.
7 jump is very interesting on a Warhammer, especially since a lot don't have jump.
7 jump is that other magical jumping number.
Yeah, where you're giving worse numbers to your opponent than what you're taking.
Yep. Just judging by its Alpha Strike card, though, which is kind of how I get a general feel for a mech. There's a lot less data to check out. This guy, other than that jump, feels very lackluster.
Yeah, he's low-tech and high-tech at the same time. It's weird. Like, he's got the improved jump jets, which are relatively high-tech. And then you've got regular PPCs, which are not extremely high-tech by any means.
No, but they do help with the heat trade-off, because they only generate 10. I mean, you're still going to be taking heat if you're jumping your full 7 and firing them, but imagine if they were ERs or snubs, you would be cooking alive.
Well, jumping your full 7 is only 4 heat, so it's not terrible.
And it definitely helps keep the cost down.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, this thing's already running up to 18 million C-bills, which compared to the 8M at 7 million, like, we've already doubled the cost just in the XL engine and the improved jump jets.
I mean, the endo steel probably didn't hurt either.
The 8M has endo steel too.
Fair.
So the big change is the XL and the improved jump jets. So your cost is going up tremendously, and you're paying for your maneuverability.
Yeah.
Because whether you jump or you run, you're more mobile than most Warhammers. And if someone's not paying attention, then it's like, oh, it's a Warhammer. It goes this speed because they all do. All of a sudden, this thing goes however KPH of 8 hexes is, or jump 7, that would throw any random person's plan out of whack because they just weren't expecting it.
Yep.
Well, I think this guy's main strategy is going to be backstabbing.
Yeah.
That 7 jump lets you get behind almost any opponent, and you can easily use it to govern your range, so you stay at that precise 6 hex range to get your short range on those standard PPCs, and then just unload dual PPC shots into their rear arc. So if you're using, if that's your play style,
I feel like another use would be it as like a very mobile sniper. Like you can take up a spot, sit there, hammer on them with the dual PPCs and not have any heat build up. And then as soon as you need to reposition, you can get to your next spot almost immediately because you are a very fast mech for your size.
Yeah.
And then you just, rinse and repeat until they die.
if you're playing MechWarrior Online or MechWarrior 5 and you have this mech, which you can't without mods, or if you were using it in a realistic in-universe setting, I think that might be one way to use it. But for tabletop, you can't really snipe at long range and make full use of those PPCs because that +4 is just crippling to hit at long range.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it all adds up to be not optimal or even doable.
Yeah, and then when you're talking 3070s, late Jihad, early Republic era, you've got Clan ER large lasers, you've got Intersphere ER large lasers out there, ER PPCs for both sides. There's just so much out there that outranges 2 standard PPCs. On the tabletop, I just don't think it's feasible to snipe, even with its mobility. And you got that 7 hex jump, 14 inches of jump, depending on your system. Use it, get behind people.
For this to scream sniper to me, it would have to have a C3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's be honest. Almost every Warhammer variant would just get a almost immediate boost if it had a C3.
Yes.
I mean, most mechs would.
Yes.
This guy's got a battle value of 1891 and a point value of 35. And then next up we have the Warhammer 8K, again in 3073. This guy's got a movement profile of 4/6. It's got 16 double heat sinks. It's got light ferro. It's got endo steel. And it also has a heavy PPC in each arm, a streak SRM4 in the right torso, and then a C3 slave in the head.
Oh, would you look at that?
So this is basically what we were talking about minus the mobility.
You don't need the mobility with this, in my opinion. That C3 slave mixed up with those 2 heavy PPCs, even you're talking 30 points of damage at 18 hexes, and you can treat it as short range if you've got another node of that C3 network within 6 hexes of the person you're shooting at.
Yep. And I mean, with 16 double heat sinks, this guy can fire both of them and run and be heat neutral. So that is not bad.
It's actually really good.
It also has case to protect that SRM ammo in the right torso.
Which is useful because you're going to have more SRM ammo on this guy than you might on other ones simply because it's streak. So you won't be spending ammo as you miss.
Yeah.
I like this one. I think this is an excellent fire support heavy mech, that C3. Just too bad it's Draconis Combine only.
Just salvage one.
This guy's got a battle value of 1748 and a point value of 43. Again, interesting to see the difference in point values between the two systems and how they weigh particular equipment because of the different rule sets. Then we come to our interesting prototype Franken.
That is a word to use for this one.
Thing.
Yes, both. All
The
of the above.
X7 Warhammer.
The Lich.
Yep. This is mixed inner sphere experimental tech. It's got a movement profile of 4/6. It has 13 double heat sinks. It has endo steel and light ferro. It's got a heavy duty gyro. It's got a light engine. It's got case 2. It also, for weapons, has in the right torso an ER medium laser and a Streak SRM6 Clan. In the left torso, it's got an ER medium laser. In the right arm, it's got a ER medium laser and a snub-nose PPC and a PPC capacitor. And then it has the same in the left arm. So this is neat and interesting. And if you look at the actual TRO write-up, the arms are a Marauder that have been modified, and the legs are
Nova Cat, I thought.
Well, the clan's Shriek SRM 6 is pulled out of a Mad Cat D.
Yeah, it's a Nova Cat legs.
Yeah.
This is an abomination.
It is beautiful.
It's a powerful abomination.
It's a powerful abomination that should not function. You
It's
can't.
beautiful.
I don't care what the rules say. You can't just slap different pieces from different mechs together and have a functional, high-tech, high-performance machine.
It is beautiful, and you shall refer to it as such.
The hand-wavy lore reason, of course, is because the pilot of this, who runs it around on Solaris 7, is backed not subtly by StarCorp. And so they have like one of their lead techs being his, technician and making everything work. I cannot imagine the software patches he's had to do.
Yeah, I mean, they deny, but apparently this head technician or the chief technician on this lich just grew a beard to protect his identity.
I mean, that's better than Clark Kent.
That is true.
Glad I wasn't the only one thinking about that.
Imagine if one of Superman's powers was being able to grow a beard and also shave his beard on mental command.
So I am not a big DC fan, but I worked with this guy, Ken, who was, and apparently he has to shave using his laser eye abilities because that's the only thing that can cut his hair because it's so strong.
I figure he just
Yeah,
used
I've seen
kryptonite
that.
razor blades.
That'd be too debilitating.
If he cut himself, would it ever heal?
Just step away from the razor.
Question mark?
All right, listeners, email in if you want us to start talking about comic books.
So going back to this abomination,
Yeah.
those PPC capacitors on the snub-nosed PPCs are an interesting and potentially incredibly powerful addition.
Because it just adds a flat 5 damage with an additional 5 heat per turn. So you're shooting for 10 at 15 with a snub-nosed PPC. That's not bad.
No, so it's you're gaining 15. You're gaining plus 5 damage,
Yeah.
and every turn that you have to activate them beforehand.
Yes, you have the activation turn, and then you have the firing turn, and any turn that you have it on standby also generates an additional 5 heat. So really it's 10, but perhaps I was not clear enough. I meant 5 heat per turn.
Yeah, 5 heat per turn, but it's also an additional 5 heat when you fire it. So it's 5 heat per turn, and then 15 heat on the turn you fire it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's 15 points of damage with a 9 hex short range. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. 15 points of damage with a 9 hex short range.
Sounds perfectly normal and totally not ridiculous.
And then the other nice thing it does on the snubs is because the snubs normally do 10 damage, 5 damage, and then 3 damage. That bumps it up, so at your medium range, instead of doing 5 damage, it's back to doing a normal PPC of 10 damage. And then at your long range, instead of doing 3 damage, it's doing 8 damage. So now...
Sorry, the damage profile on the record sheet is 10, 8, 5. So with the capacitors, it would be 15, 13, 10.
Oh, even better. I had my numbers mixed up. Yeah, so your long range of 15 hexes, so not amazing. That's original large laser long range. You're doing a standard PPC's worth of 10 damage, but then closer than that, you're doing 13 and then 15 damage. So this mech's really a lot more potent. Those snubs are a lot more potent with the capacitor.
Absolutely, and the snub-nosed PPC is already a, if not S-class, A-class weapon.
It's decent.
Yep, and then the nice thing about having it with the capacitor is because they generate heat when they're on, right? So if you need to manage your heat, you can just turn the capacitor off, save yourself that 5 heat a turn, or go back down to 10 heat when you're firing. So you have a lot more opportunities to play with your heat management on this mech.
Yeah, no, this seems like something you have to play with a little bit to really figure out how to walk that line, but it'd be fun falling on your face learning how to do it, though, it looks like.
Yeah.
Just not in this mech.
No, yes, in this mech. It is glorious.
This abomination.
So this guy was seen in 3077. He's got a battle value of 1807 and a point value of 34. We then come to the 5L, and this guy's got a movement profile of 355. It's got a ER medium laser and an SRM-4 in the right torso, an ER medium laser in the left torso, and a plasma rifle in each arm. It also has case to protect the SRM ammo, but not the plasma rifle ammo, because both of those 2 tons for each are stored in each arm. It's got 15 double heat sinks and improved jump jets.
And they also don't explode.
I thought plasma rifle ammo exploded.
It does not. It is inert until fired. It's just like Gauss ammo, essentially.
Okay.
Which makes them even better.
If I remember correctly, it's like a foam.
Interesting.
Because it really just uses it to generate the plasma. Like, it's not like explosive or anything. It just needs the material to be able to cause all the plasma heaty bits that it fires out the front.
Yeah, I mean, plasma is superheated gas, and so until it is superheated, whatever the stuff is should be relatively harmless. Yeah, but like a movement profile of 355 is not bad. A 5 jumping is one of those good numbers. You're handing out the same number you're taking, so also being able to maneuver over terrain. This seems like a really good utility mech. The plasma rifles duel, will heat up another opponent mech you fire on real quick if you roll well on those 2d6.
This screams anti-vehicle to me with the plasma rifles. Like, they're very effective against mechs, but they're absolutely terrifying against vehicles.
And infantry.
Yeah.
Plasma rifles, is it 2d6 heat or 2d6 damage?
Oh, I always get this mixed up.
Same.
Now you have me second guessing myself.
1d6 of heat, 2d6 of damage against vehicles. Yeah, so this guy's doing, each one of these plasma rifles is doing between 12 and 22 points of damage to vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so still 2d6, one for each rifle on a mech. Will still heat something up real quick, though.
It's 1d6 of heat against a mech.
Yeah, but there's 2 rifles.
Oh.
Yeah, so, a 6-pack from each, and that'll heat you up real quick. 12 heat added onto something that maybe the pilot was walking that line because they thought it was a different rifleman, not with plasma rifles.
Now, there is a cap on the amount of heat you can apply to a mech in a single turn.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Oh, I don't play a lot of heat manipulating mechs, or what's the term for a mech that can project heat onto another with weapons?
Annoying. Buzzkill?
Killjoy?
Firestarter?
Yeah.
Yeah, Firestarter.
Yeah.
The problem is either they're even in the fluff, like they've been saying, there's a lot of like plasma mechs out there now, but I really feel like there's a gulf right now that needs to get filled with there being like kind of a lot, but not really.
No, there's a lot, but they're almost exclusively Capellan. At least from what I've seen.
There's that, and then the clan ones, you have to use like experimental rules almost, because usually they put the plasma cannons on fancy things.
Yeah, those are plasma cannons as well. They don't actually do any damage. They just do heat.
Yeah. They do 2d6 per shot, though, against mechs, which is nice.
Yeah.
That's a lot of heat to put on a mech with one gun.
Yeah, and again, there's a cap on how much heat you can apply. I don't know it off the top of my head because there were only a couple guys who used plasma rifles in my gaming group, and I didn't run up against them all that often, so I just know it exists. I don't know what the cap is off the top of my head. These plasma rifles are also kind of lackluster on range, in my opinion. They only go out to 15 hexes, so if you know you're fighting somebody with plasma rifle and you're fairly maneuverable, you can probably avoid taking the damage if you play a little bit more cautious. The other thing I'll say about this is 355, that 5 jump movement is very nice, but it also tends to lock you into jumping all the time, which can really if you need to take an accurate shot. Because 355 is just slow moving. You run into any sort of uphill, downhill, woods, rough terrain, anything, and you basically don't move. It's just so slow. So you jump. You constantly jump. And even though you are inflicting that +3 on the enemy to their targeting number, you're also putting it on yourself. So yeah, normally I say jump. If you've got 5 or better jump, you should always be jumping. And it's true, but there are times when you need the better numbers to get that shot off. And between the relatively short 15 hex long range and the slow 3-5 movement profile, this guy is going to struggle in those turns where he needs to stand still to get good targeting numbers.
So I just looked it up real quick, and the maximum heat a mech can take from external sources is 15.
Okay.
Which will still overheat most mechs.
Yeah.
You'd have to custom make a lance to get to that pretty much.
You mean just have a lance of fire starters?
No, you could have a bunch of plasma rifles or plasma cannons.
A bunch of 5Ls.
Yeah.
Which I find it interesting because this is another Warhammer we're seeing that has a lower model number than the original production model Warhammer. And so I'm wondering if that 3-5 movement profile came from a rejected prototype that, when they were first developing the Warhammer, it's a relatively new technology still. We're out of primitive tech, but we're still kind of feeling our way to the standards. If there was a Warhammer 5A or something that had a 3-5 movement profile and was going to be more of an assault mech Warhammer.
I don't know. I've always attached the number to the letter pretty much. So like this is the 5L, so it technically directly follows the 4L.
Yeah.
So I've always considered them linked.
Yeah, the idea that a base root ancestor exists that we have not seen is not terrible headcanon for a divergent model line, which is clearly the Liao flavor.
You mean the hammer hands?
Yeah, I just don't buy the letter being the more important part and the numbers follow the letter, because we see various mechs where the number doesn't necessarily correlate sequentially, and the letter is almost always some sort of house or faction identifier, with a few outliers.
Well, this 5L was seen in 3081, and it's got a battle value of 1896 and a point value of 37. We then come to the 11T in 3084.
T for Taurians!
This guy, of course, has some different art, and this art I like.
Yes.
Neat, it's nice, it's stocky, the gray shading looks really good on it.
It's proportioned properly.
It's fixing the Project Phoenix art, because this is pretty much a Project Phoenix mech just drawn better.
Yeah.
Yes, because you know why? It's a Taurian art.
Why?
It's a Taurian mech, and they are a classy people.
Are they?
Yes. Having the best education levels in the galaxy will do that to you.
So, the 11T's got a movement profile of 465. It's got a ER medium laser and an MML5 in the right torso. It's got an ER medium laser in the left torso. It's got a light PPC and a snub-nosed PPC in the right arm, and same in the left arm. It also has 13 double heat sinks, light ferro, an XL fusion engine, and case to protect that ammo, 1 ton of LRM and 1 ton of SRM.
I have to say, this Warhammer is beautiful. It's not beautiful, it's sublime. Jumps 5, which for a heavy mech, jumping 7 is probably a bad idea because you're spending so much weight, you hit like a medium. But jumping 5, we can work with that. Dual snub-nose PPCs? I mean, if one's good, two's better, right?
Maybe.
And then it's got that MML5 for that flexibility. Sure, it's only 5 points of damage at long range, but normally a Warhammer has an SRM6, so it can't even do 5 points of damage at long ranges. Right? And then it's got enough heat where it can jump 5, fire both snubs, and have 3 heat left over.
Oh, I agree. This thing is great, and the 3 left over is perfect because that's how much an MML generates.
Yes. It's just...
My only complaint, and this is so nitpicky, I acknowledge that, is that it feels like the bracket for the light PPCs is the 3 hexes from 5 to 18, and the rest of the time you're going to want to use your snubs, so the light PPCs aren't going to see a lot of use. But that is one of those, like, I really got to look at this to see something wrong sort of complaints.
Yeah, that's what we call poke damage. That's where you're at long range on that MechWare Online map, and you see them, but they're not quite popping up on your targeting. So you poke with those light PPCs to put a little bit of damage on them.
Let them know that you're there. Give them the business a little bit before you give them the big business.
Keep them honest. As for the history of this 11T, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go into this because I'm a Taurian, and this is the Taurian Warhammer.
No.
After the Word of Blake dropped an asteroid on Taurus, Taurus Territorial Industries CEO Matthias Komiger won a bunch of bids to help with the reconstruction of the planet, as well as bids to provide material to the Taurian Defense Force, which included this 11T. So that's why the Taurian Concordat graced us with this mech. It was part of their rebuilding after the Jihad.
Mm-hmm.
This glorious piece of machinery, if you are a Taurian.
Yes.
I think it's a glorious piece of machinery for anyone to pilot.
The Davians probably won't like it.
They probably want to take it as salvage, though.
Salvage, melt it down, just to insult the Taurians.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1698 and a point value of 32. We then come to the 10CT in 3085, and this guy's got different art. In fact, it's got the Lich art, which is interesting, which probably means it's got some sort of connection.
Because it's a descendant.
Yeah, so I'm going to guess that this is a Star Corp or a Comstar model of some sort. I don't actually have the notes on this guy directly in front of me.
I've got it. So the CT is the mass-produced factory model, essentially, of the Lich.
Mm-hmm.
The D in the WHD, the D stands for the Marauder. The CT is for the Novacat.
Ah, there you go.
Ah,
Right, of course, because this guy has the different serial number of WHD-10CT. Forgot to mention the D in there because, well, all the rest of the Warhammers are WHM, and slipped my mind.
so here's a fun one for the people in charge of the Wolfnet 350 setup. This Warhammer, WHD-10CT, is not a WHM. Does it count against the rule of 2 when you're taking Warhammers? Or can you take 2 WHMs and a WHD and a Warhammer 2C?
Well, I'm sure you want to, because this guy's got a movement profile of 4-6. It's got a C3 slave in the head. It's got a medium pulse laser and SRM 6 in the right torso. In the left torso, it's got a medium pulse laser and a targeting computer. In the right arm, it's got a ER medium laser and a snub-nose PPC, and same in the left arm. It also has 13 double heat sinks. It's got case and endo steel and light ferro. It also has that heavy-duty gyro and light engine from the Lich model. So this thing is interesting. It's a little different than its dad, but this would fit into any C3 Lance perfectly well. This thing is gorgeous in my opinion. It's got a decent long range. It does have to close relatively quickly, but once it's nice and in close, it can give that C3 data to all of its compatriots, and they can rain down the long range fire.
Yeah, and it's going to be a pain in the butt to kill.
That would be my biggest complaint with this guy is with those snubs and C3, he can't really take advantage of targeting data, so he has to close. But he's only a 4-6 with no jump, so getting close is going to be more difficult for him.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, hunchbacks close. It just takes some very strategic planning.
Yeah, he'd probably be great at defensive actions, having people charge to him.
Yeah, I can see this guy running as a kind of an ambush guy, powered down in some heavy woods or something. Powers up when the enemy gets close so he can smash them with the snubs and relay targeting data to the rest of the ambush party.
Absolutely.
Give him the business.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1758 and a point value of 39. We then come to the WHM-8D2 in 3087. This, of course, being a Davian model, and sadly it goes back to that Project Phoenix art, but what you gonna do? It's got a movement profile of 4-6. It's got a C3 boosted slave in the center torso. It's got a ER medium laser in the right torso, as well as an ER small laser, and a Thunderbolt 5. It's got an ER medium laser and an ER small laser in the left torso, and an ER PPC in each arm. It also has endo steel and 17 double heat sinks and case to protect a ton of Thunderbolt ammo.
Now, is this the first time we've seen a Thunderbolt launcher?
I don't
No.
think so. I'm pretty sure we saw some with the longbow, and I think the Thunderbolt, I think, had one, didn't it?
No, because we were joking that it needed one.
Yeah.
Right.
We have ran into it, though.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, the Thunderbolt is just one big honkin' missile.
Huge.
He's big boy missile.
This is a huge missile.
Yeah,
Well, the arrow is the big boy. This is like the medium boy.
right.
This is a pretty solid Warhammer.
Oh yeah, that C3 is fantastic. Gets some targeting data, so you can use the long range quite effectively. It's got enough heat sink so you can be dual wielding those ERPPCs, no problem.
And the Thunderbolt,
Mm-hmm.
which means you could be putting out 25 points of damage out to, well, Thunderbolt only goes 18 hexes. So 25 damage out to 18 hexes and 20 damage out to 23, all with short range numbers if you've got a lance mate in close, and you don't have to worry about enemy ECM scouts as long as they don't have Angel ECM, because you've got that boosted C3.
Yeah, the boosted C3 is a very nice addition.
Yeah, no, this thing is a great bit of kit. And of course, we are going to throw over to our on-location correspondent, Derek, for his 2 cents about the 8D2.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite Davian liaison again to speak to you about the Warhammer 8D2. Even though this is not a Davian mech, we are very adverse in killing it because they ripped it off of us. Because, the 8D. Perfection. This periphery junk. Turian periphery junk, making it even worse. Nonetheless, it has a C3 boosted slave, probably stolen from the Federated Suns because periphery. 2 ER PPCs, 2 ER medium lasers, 2 ER smalls, and a Thunderbolt 5 because, I guess they wanted to die faster in ammo explosions because they didn't properly heatsink the mech. Surprise. Color me shocked. Anyway, nonetheless, my apologies. This mech debuted in 3087. It was used as a flagship by the TTI Corporation as their first flagship mech from their newly built facilities on Taurus to try and, restore some sort of morale to the people after, getting their capital asteroid strike during the Jihad. Totally wasn't the Federated Suns. It totally was the Wobbies. Just so everyone's tracking that it wasn't us. We probably would have just nuked them. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming.
So, the battle value for the 8D2 is 1658 and a point value of 45. And of course, thank you for that, Derek. Our next model is the Warhammer 8R, and this guy has, first and foremost, the Kickstarter art, which of course is fantastic and gorgeous and looks so good.
It's coming to us out of Recognition Guide 7.
That is correct, yes.
And the R stands for Republic of the Sphere?
That would be correct. This guy was seen in 3090, and he has a movement profile of 4.6. He's got an ER PPC in each arm. He's got an ER medium laser, an ER small laser, and a machine gun in the left torso. It's got a Streak SRM-6, an ER medium laser, an ER small laser, and a machine gun in the right torso. It's got 16 double heat sinks and endo steel, and case 2 to protect those 2 tons of ammo, 1 ton for the machine gun and 1 ton for the SRM-6.
Now, are any of those weapons clan tech?
It does not list them as clan tech, it lists it as Inner Sphere base level tech.
Yeah, this is a bog standard Warhammer upgrade. This is, if you really like the original Warhammer and you want something that can compete against the newer stuff in 3150, that just take this. This is literally just a tech upgraded 6R.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that it's got machine guns, especially considering the era, it's from the 3090s, so we saw a lot of infantry with the Dark Ages and after Blackout and everything, Grey Monday, and I expect us to still have a fair amount of infantry that we are dealing with. That being said, though, machine guns are great for hunting crits on internal structure.
Yeah, if you're that close to where you can use them. The reason I asked about clan tech is, 1, it's a straight upgrade, and 2, it says it's advanced tech on MUL, so I was trying to figure out if that was from clan tech or just the case 2.
My guess is
It's
the case 2.
Yeah.
Because at this point, everything else is standard tech, if expensive.
This sounds like a solid Warhammer. I like seeing the machine guns come back for anti-infantry duties, especially as you pointed out during the Dark Ages, when you're seeing real militaries featuring combined arms.
Real militaries, not fake ones, real.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1697 and a point value of 40. We then come to the Warhammer 9K in 3105. So this guy's got a movement profile of 4/6. He's got a heavy PPC in each arm and it has an MML 9 in the right torso. It has case 2 to protect 1 ton of LRM and 1 ton of SRM. It's got endo steel. It's got a light engine. It has 16 double heat sinks. This thing is a beast. It just wants to stand somewhere and hand out damage. Not necessarily actually stand there, but you get my meaning.
Garita.
I mean, they love their PPCs.
You said 9K, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. So in Megamech, the 47.15 version, I have a 9K. That is very different from the 9K in the new Recognition Guide.
Ooh, how is it different?
So the 9K in the Recognition Guide has the 2 heavy PPCs and the MML9. The one in Megamech has 2 ER PPCs, medium laser, ER small laser, a clan machine gun, a clan streak 6, and then, the medium laser, ER small, and then the clan machine gun again.
Huh.
And then case 2, which is also clan case 2.
Sounds like somebody in the Megamech got it wrong.
Yeah, because that's the 10K.
That makes sense.
Typo.
The 9K has a battle value of 1744 and a point value of 40. And it's a great piece of kit. I mean, it's pretty easy to pilot, I think, considering it's got 3 weapons and their range brackets all line up quite nicely, so you know what you want to do.
Would you say it's awesome?
Oh.
2 out of 3 PPCs.
There you go. I'll second that one. 2 out of 3 PPCs on the awesome scale.
Well, they're also heavy PPCs.
There are some awesomes that have the heavies and the snubs and all that, so.
I mean, if we're going by damage, it is the same amount of damage.
It's true.
Just looking at the Alpha Strike cards, I'm not as impressed with the 9K as I was with the 8R. You basically trade 2 points of long range damage for 2 points of structure, making the 8R a little bit tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 points of damage at long range. You generally don't spend a huge amount of time at long range in Alpha Strike, I don't think. I mean, I haven't really. And even if you are, again, you're dealing with the +4 for being at long range, which, again, makes your shots really, really bad. So, that's the other thing the 8R has, is it's got an OV of 1 at short and medium range, so it can actually go up to 5 points of damage at medium range. So it just feels a little bit better to me than the 9K.
So this 9K has a battle value of 1744 and a point value of 40. We then come to the 10K, and it was seen in 3147. Now, Chandler, let me know how well it lines up with the mislisting of the 9K. Movement profile of 4/6. ER PPC in each arm. Left torso's got a medium laser, a ER small laser inner sphere, a machine gun clan. The right torso's got a Streak SRM 6 clan, medium laser, ER small laser inner sphere, and a machine gun clan. It's got 16 double heat sinks, endo composite, ballistic reinforced armor, and a light engine, as well as 1 ton of ammo for each.
When they were putting in the 9K, they just didn't change the name, so they overwrote their old version with the 9K with the way they input it by looks of it. So I'll just have to go in and fix my 47.15 for the time being and make sure that they know about it for the new stable in January, hopefully.
There you go. Hopefully we can sneak that in. So this guy seems quite neat. I mean, it seems like a strong upgrade to the already strong 8R. So,
yeah.
I mean, you're going to be running mixed tech, but depending on what you're playing, that could or could not be an issue.
If you're playing Alpha Strike, this is just an advanced tech, so it's perfectly legal in 350. And comparing it to the 8R for Alpha Strike, there's not a whole lot of difference. Same exact damage profile, same exact movement profile. It really just gains BRA for the ballistic reinforced armor and loses 2 structure over the 8R.
Now, the ballistic reinforced, that's just good against...
Autocannons.
Yeah, that's just good against autocannons, right? Not missiles.
Correct. I might also work against Goss. ERA is what works against missiles.
And I'm trying to remember, what's special about the endo composite? Is it just a better endo steel?
You save less weight, but it takes up less slots. So it's an in-between between composite and endo steel, which the name represents.
Yeah.
Because composite, you take double damage to structure, which is not bueno.
Ooh. Ouch.
So ballistic reinforced armor does work against missiles.
Oh, it does.
According to Sarna. Ballistic and missile weapons.
Interesting. Well, it's got one up on reflective then, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And you don't take double damage against melee.
Reflective is a cool idea, but it just seems gimmicky and wasteful in a practical sense. And I know I'm talking about a universe where there's giant stompy robots.
I mean, it technically makes sense with the fact that it's supposed to be reflective, and most reflective things in the world tend to be pretty fragile. So I think that was probably the logic they were going with.
Armoring your mech in mirrors does not do well against punching.
Or anything that's actual, like, impact force.
Yes, you only take double damage if you fall or you kicked, so it's not terrible against other weapons. Just don't fall or don't get punched.
I mean, we all know if you want to wear shiny reflective armor that's good against lasers and everything else, you need Beskar.
You hear that, Mandalorian? Figure out how to jump dimensions, and you got yourself a market.
There you go. Yeah, so this guy seems neat and interesting. So this guy's got a battle value of 2033 and a point value of 39. We then come to our pilot profiles. Today we are going to start off by throwing over to Josh.
Taurian Concordat, Warhammer 11T pilot. Subaltern Bill Hawkins. Became famous during the Pleiades campaign against the Davians. As a fresh graduate from the École Militaire, he was able to apply his academy training, a step up from just basic mech warrior training, to the campaign, and helped the Taurian Defense Force make substantial gains early on. These early gains in his tactical skills honed at the École Militaire earned him a promotion to coronet, and he was wounded on Lindsay during intense fighting with Davian mercenaries, but he was able to successfully rally his unit to drive off the mercenaries and was then promoted from coronet to subaltern. So this guy would be a Rise Star in clan terms. He's someone to watch for.
An up-and-comer.
Yep.
Don't get in his way. He's got some sort of plot armor.
So next up we have mech warrior Eldwin Tola. And Edwin was born a Steel Viper and lived during the decline of his clan. He was forced to rely on the Grand Melee to enter the trials for his blood name, there showing precision and patience while piloting a Star League-era Warhammer. He won the Grand Melee and then went to win his blood name. Shortly after, and before he could actually perform his trial of position, he was captured by Clan Wolf and made a bondsman, but was quickly adopted into their warrior ranks, where he was soon facing his previous clan in battle. He was again requisitioned a Warhammer. He vented his frustration of years of disregard and dismissal by destroying all the warriors of his former clan that he could find.
What happened to him? Is he still alive?
I'm guessing not, because Clan Steel Viper was destroyed quite a while ago. This would have been, I think it's Jihad era?
It is.
For the clans, that was known as the War of Reaving. The Wars of Reaving.
The last we hear about Eldon Tola. Mech Warrior Tola. Well, that's what I'm going to name him. He's Tola now. His mech was a smoking ruin on the field of battle, so it's possible he's alive.
It's possible.
Theoretically. Probable? No.
I mean, he will live on in his gene children, right?
He lives on in our hearts. Next up, we have Chui Edward Joe Brevin. He rushed through his studies at the Sun Zhang Military Academy, and he was eager to join the ranks of the DCMS as he, in his own words, said, "I want to fight that so others don't have to," which for any military is probably a good idea to have that, or it's great to have that mindset in your rank and file, except for maybe the clans. It's a different thing there. I don't think that would have earned him many favors. He eventually graduated directly to command of a lance in the new Hikage regiment and was assigned a new Warhammer. With only a few months of training, the Hikage were deployed to end the vicious assaults by Task Force Percival, which is a Davian formation. And as he led his lance off the ramp of their dropship into battle, an unknown enemy heavy mech challenged him to a duel. Aware that his lancemates and company commander had already questioned his abilities due to his short time in training, he agreed to the honor duel, and his Warhammer and the Davian Inferno went at each other, with the Warhammer's PPCs lighting up the Inferno and beating it into the ground. And Brevin, of course, being the nice person he is, waited for...
The honorable samurai?
Being the honorable samurai and all-around good guy he is, waited for his opponent to surrender, and unfortunately, the Inferno didn't, and rose one last time and fired its own PPC directly at his cockpit. And if he was an unlucky person, that would have just been the end of it. But luckily for him, he survived with severe injuries. He does currently struggle to recover his place in the Hikage and is vowed to never show mercy to a Davian again.
Okay.
Bwah, bwah, bwah.
I have to ask, because I've never heard of it before. Sarner doesn't show it. Master Unit List doesn't show it. What is an Inferno?
The Inferno is a new mech that was just shown off in Battletech Recognition Guide number 9. Was it number 9?
Oh.
I think it was number 9. It is a brand new Davian mech, and we will get to it one day in the far futures where there is only war. But its special niche is, 1, it's an inner sphere omni-mech, and 2, its design style, it focuses all of its weapons into its chest cavity. So, like, none of its variants have arm weapons.
So it's an MWO design.
Yeah, essentially. But it's a neat little, it's a neat mech.
Cool.
And I'm not surprised that it stood up to a brand new Warhammer.
Oh, yeah. It looks very, humanoid. It's got 2 missile racks over each shoulder and a big weapons port in the center torso. Looks good, and I look forward to a mini when they come out with one of them.
Hopefully in plastic.
Very Iron Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it even has, like, what's the word I'm looking for right now? It has steel knuckles.
Nice.
Iron Man or like War Machine?
Or Ironmonger.
Probably closer to War Machine, just because of all the gun. But the center chest laser kind of makes it just feel Iron Man in general.
Gotcha. Cool.
So next up we have Lieutenant Nigel Kendrick. Nigel is a Solaris 7 jock who pilots a Warhammer and has been rising in the listings. Then suddenly he took a job to extract a Capellan dancer that resulted in a 3-way shootout on the streets of Solaris 7. The 3 parties in question being the Triad, the Black Hill Security Forces, and Nigel in his Warhammer. Rumor is that Nigel is a Ghost Knight or is now serving with the Northwind Highlanders.
You said 3-way.
3-way shootout.
With a Capellan dancer. Giggity.
Nice.
All right.
Last up, we have another Taurian. This Taurian is actually hailing from the Calderon Protectorate. For those who don't know, the Calderon Protectorate is an offshoot of the Taurian Concordat, established to preserve the Taurian ideals and the Calderon bloodline. Subaltern Bradley Pilyapuick cut his teeth on fighting pirates while defending the Calderon Protectorate, and is known as a kind of a lawman. He leads a company of the 3rd Taurian Pride on detached duty. The 3rd Taurian Pride has a integrated dropship Union class, which they use to hop from system to system to hunt down pirate bases. Sergeant Subaltern Bradley Pilyapuick actually led a raid on Pirates Haven itself, conducting a combat drop into the midst of their barbarian victory party. The pirate leader escaped, but the 3rd Taurian Pride was able to capture several dozen pirates, billions of Taurian bulls, the Taurian Concordat and Calderon Protectorate currency, billions of bulls worth of stolen loot, and boosted Pilyapuick's reputation. And the biggest prize in that cachet was a French bulldog named Charlie that Subaltern Bradley adopted, and I can't tell if the French bulldog or if subaltern Bradley got this nickname, but one of them has the nickname the Bulldog of Matanzas.
I think it's the subaltern, but I also find it funny that the Bulldog has a name, but also has a nickname because Warhammer.
Yeah.
Or not Warhammer.
Warhammer.
We're talking about the Warhammer in Battletech.
Yeah, it's amusing. I mean, it's not there are plenty of military dogs that have nicknames. The Marine Corps, I can't think of the name of the current Marine Corps Bulldog mascot. But yeah, the Marine Corps even has given the dang dog a rank. So it's not uncommon, not unheard of.
No, well, I don't know if
He's
either
a
of you
good
have
boy.
seen the first season of The Terror, but there was a fantastic scene where some of the ship's crew are discussing what is the rank of the captain's dog, because, of course, in that era, your rank determined where on the ship you could go and all of that. So not only is it a really good scene in a really good season of a show, but it's a very interesting look at the class structure of the English system, honestly, not that long ago.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. He is above the captain. He can go anywhere.
In fact, he goes on the floor.
Even better.
And thus he owns it.
'Tis his floor.
While we're on the Calderon Protectorate and the subject of Taurians, I did remember how we were talking about the Warhammer 7A was basically a sort of royal mech.
Mm-hmm.
I just discovered that the 7A is a royal variant because in the recognition guide it says the Taurian Concordat has been producing Warhammers since they were introduced, and with the recent discovery of a memory core during the Jihad, they upgraded that to the Royal 7A variant. So
Oh, there we go.
yeah, there are two royal variants, the 6RB and the 7A.
Interesting.
I think the Thunderbolt had a few royal variants.
The Taurian Concordat produces the 7A. It's not a backwater. It's not a technological backwater.
No one ever said it
Wait,
was.
hold on. Does that mean the Taurians are successors of the Star League?
Yes. Put the Taurians in charge.
Nothing will ever go wrong.
So, speaking of the Star League, or more specifically its progenitor, we are going to go over to our data dive, and we are looking back at the Terran Hegemony Part 5. We come now to Judith Cameron. With the death of her brothers and his son being too young to rule, Judith put her name forth for the position of Director General. The deaths of both her brothers was an eventuality that her mother had not planned for, and so Judith received little to no education in governance, never joined the military, and according to historical records, never appears to have displayed any talent or interest in governance, and in fact had a disregard for authority. For this reason, the High Council held her nomination back and looked for a more qualified candidate, air quotes. When none could be found, they reluctantly put forth Judith for election. She was elected to be the 6th Director General of the Terran Hegemony. Judith surprised all when she showed a steady hand at governance and continued to build off the work that her family had started. Notably, she expanded the Castle Bryan project to also include the borders of the Free World League and the Capellan Confederation. With the Age of War gearing up when Judith was elected, and the Terran Hegemony being the center of the Inner Sphere, tensions were always high, even when fighting world around them, but not including them. At times, the Terran Hegemony was literally an eye in the storm. Judith recognized that no nation could stand against the Terran Hegemony, but an alliance could put an end to the Terran Hegemony. With her brothers' marriages... to the McQueston family, a power block inside the Larian Commonwealth, the Terran Hegemony and the Larian Commonwealth continue to strengthen their informal alliance, expanding the Joint Ownership Planet program, and bringing an economic boon and industrialization to the regions. The program also continued in the Federated Suns, but was slowed by the fact that the Federated Suns was now under the tyrannical rule of Edith, Edward, and Edmund Davian. Judith and the Terran Hegemony consoled themselves with the fact that if war were to come with the Federated Suns, it would be brief, as the population was simmering just below revolution at this point due to the mismanagement and heavy-handed rule. Before 2407, the HAF had only accidental raids and unintentional strikes, air quotes there, to contend with. But in 2407, the Draconis Combine's major offensive into the Larian Commonwealth that then headed right for Terran Hegemony space. The Larian Commonwealth Archon Alistair Marsden requested assistance from Judith and the Terran Hegemony, but they were unable to commit troops to fighting the invasion. The Terran Hegemony, however, would reinforce joint ownership worlds, allowing the garrisoned military to transfer to the front. The long-standing relationship between the Terran Hegemony and the Larian Commonwealth allowed for this to happen, as this sort of action could easily be seen as a land grab. The HAF did fight the Draconis Combine on the planet of Lions, where the HAF had assumed complete garrison control. They faced an equivalent force and were able to retain control of the planet using superior warship tactics and space ground defenses. The operation was costly in manpower, however. In 2409, the HAF fought the invasion of terra firma, only to be pushed off the planet after a long and bloody campaign. The Capellan Confederation would only hold terra firma for 2 months before it was liberated by a HAF relief force. Despite the fact that the Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation, Alicia Liao, offered to make reparations for the invasion, a wedge had been driven between the people and the government of the Capellan Confederation and the Terran Hegemony: the rules of war. As reports, stories, and footage of the events on Tintavel reached the rest of the Inner Sphere, many felt this could not continue, or they would risk everything, particularly Alicia Liao, for whom the events turned a trigger-happy despot into a remorseful and burdened leader.
I don't buy it. She's a Liao. I don't buy it.
Well, hold on. Kai Allard Liao was a Liao.
Yeah, but he was half Allard.
Tomato.
I mean, his mom was pretty sweet, so...
So Allard. Mr. Allard. Mallard?
Mallard. Definitely Mallard. Watch out for hunting season.
Quack. Quack.
Quack, quack. Affleck?
But it is important to note that the Capellan Confederation was also in a particularly exposed position, as their industrial base was thin and thus easily targeted using the tactics displayed on Tintavel. Thus, Alicia set out to make sure that the events of Tintavel never repeated themselves. Many leaders dismissed the idea outright for many reasons, mainly the idea of sending heads of state into a ostensibly hostile territory. To ensure the safety of all of the dignitaries invited by the Chancellor, the HAF was requested to escort and guard all visiting dignitaries. The Chancellor believed that the Terran Hegemony represented the best, not ideal, faction to keep the peace and remain neutral. The people of the Terran Hegemony were split on not only the request, but the fact that Judith granted it, as many still felt bitterness and resentment towards the Capellan Confederation for the terra firma invasion.
Get in line, buddy.
But Judith recognized the opportunity that this presented. Even if everything fell apart, the Terran Hegemony would be seen as the protectors and a predominant party with little resources committed. And so, 10 flotillas were scrubbed clean and painted white, and sent out to escort the dignitaries to Aries.
Wait. Say that part again?
And so 10 flotillas were scrubbed clean and painted white, and sent out to escort dignitaries to Aries.
Dignitaries?
Palm Star?
Oh. It is a important historical misconception that the Aries Conventions were signed on New Olympia, a planet at the time under the control of the Free Worlds League. They were signed in the Great Hall in the city of New Olympia on the planet of Aries. The Aries Convention negotiations were tense and often seemed that they would fall apart at any moment. But with a convincing speech by the Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation, the Aries Convention was passed, as the minority parties who opposed realized a coalition against them would be a thing to avoid. The Aries Convention, signed as an article of peace, would simply formalize and ritualize the rules of war, taking war from a horror to a normalcy. Richard Cameron. Judith Cameron stepped down in 2419, and Richard Cameron was immediately elected as Director General. Richard had served as a naval officer and had commanded a Lola-class destroyer, the Beatrice. Richard Cameron is a Director General of little note, other than the fact that the Kintari system was taken into the Terran Hegemony in 2431 as a result of the events on Cartago and its repeated invasion by the Federated Suns, and that in 2432 he introduced a bill that allowed the Director General to nominate their successor. This bill received pushback from the Terran Hegemony population, who still wished for a democracy and representation in their government. Despite the pushback, the bill would be passed, and this would move the Terran Hegemony from a oligarchy to a monarchy, with the previous bills that had been introduced by previous Director Generals. This is where we will leave off today.
And nothing bad ever happened to the hegemony.
I have to say, I'm not opposed to monarchies. I think they can be very stable, very beneficial forms of government with the right people in charge. But the Camerons have not shown a tendency to put individual liberty ahead of everything else. So
the Camerons almost have we are the ones who are supposed to rule all of humanity ingrained into their genetics.
Yes, which I think gives credence to the conspiracy source book that claims that the Camerons are actually the Rothschilds, just they changed their name to avoid the Rothschild stigma.
I could actually believe that the Rothschilds, a branch of the Rothschilds, married into a Cameron family, because obviously Cameron is an actual name that exists and has existed throughout history in both worlds, and just was like, yeah, we're Camerons. Funnel resources into our new family.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what they said happened. The main Rothschild family died off or was killed, and an offshoot who was married into a Cameron line basically became the Rothschilds.
Yeah.
So
also, just as a note, who else but Jamie Wolfe could bring all other leaders of the Inner Sphere to a single place during wartime? Not many people. So it makes sense that the Chancellor had a lot of pushback and was like, you want us to what?
Yeah, and I also find it interesting, this whole concept of the formalization and ritualization of warfare, because there's a kind of a theory in history of the warfare of kings versus the warfare of democracies. And the idea is that kings can fight limited wars because they want the territory, they want the resources, so they're less likely to just bomb the whole world or to burn down cities, I guess would be a better example, because that's what actually happened. That defeats the purposes of their invasions and their wars. Whereas democracies, they tend to fight wholesale all-out wars because it's not one individual's greed or belief that he's doing what's best for himself and his line. It's a nation and their way of life versus another nation, another society, and their way of life. And one of those societies, one of those ways of life have to prevail, which leads to all-out war. So this whole, on the surface of it, the idea of ritualizing warfare with these Aries conventions seems like a very bad idea because now it happens more often. I think you have to look and see what is the collateral damage and what is the impact on individuals. Are they better off even if wars are more frequent but very limited, or are they worse off than they would be if wars were wholesale but less frequent?
I mean, that is a very good question, and it is a thing that I think is a little beyond the scope of this podcast, but it is a good question to ask nonetheless.
We keep talking about the Aries Convention, and Chandler's done a great job of digging into it. I just thought it was...
I mean, to be fair, it is also a pivotal document in the history of the universe, and so it is covered by basically every creator who covers the Battletech universe.
Yeah, and it's generally presented as this is good in the sense that it preserves civilian lives, but it's bad because now there's a lot more war. And, I just think it's an interesting question that listeners can ask themselves and discuss in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
If it protects individual life and property but causes more wars, is it bad still?
I mean, I would counter that argument with, if we're debating it in the framework of democracy versus monarchy, isn't everybody in the kingdom the property of the king? So it wouldn't be individual property and liberty?
No, you have plenty of kingdoms, especially in the Western tradition after the Magna Carta, where private property is the individuals, and that's the phrase every man's
house is his castle.
Yeah, because in the traditional, at least English common law tradition, even the king couldn't necessarily enter a person's home if that person was a free man and that was his property.
No, absolutely. But the point I'm making is that framing it in those sorts of absolutes is
only Sith deal in them.
Yeah, it's a little trickier than that and a little reductive in my opinion. But luckily we can have that nuanced opinion and discussion in the Discord. Not to step on your toes or anything.
No.
If we're going to say kings have limited warfare, you've never seen my Stellaris plate. There is no such thing as limited warfare, no matter whether my interstellar empire is democracy, dictatorship, or,
Stellaris, one of the few games where it's like, yeah, space is full, go away.
You said what to me? Burn all your worlds. See you later.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, TROs 3039, Record Sheets 3039, TRO 3075, Record Sheets 3075, Unabridged Age of War, Spotlight on Thermopolice, Historical Operation Klondike, Record Sheets Operation Klondike, Turning Point Mallory's World, Record Sheets 3085 Project Phoenix, Record Sheets 3085 On the Cutting Edge, Record Sheets New Tech, New Upgrades, Ilclan Recognition Guide Volume 7, Battle of Tukid and Supplemental, and the Star League Sourcebook, as well as Battletech Total Warfare.
Did you get the recognition guide?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/On the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro.
Peace out, mech warriors.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
That was a thought that I had for the Turian data dive next week. You could talk about their education system.
Okay.
Yeah. So this guy's got...
Or you could just leave it in.
Foreshadowing.
It's a sneak peek for next week.
Yeah, if you leave it in, if you leave that comment in here, and then we dive into it the following week, that actually would be kind of cool.
All right. Maybe a stinger or something.